Hi, welcome to the Freedom Habit. Today I'm going to talk about speaking to your cells. We've been speaking to our cells all of our lives, whether we're joyful or fearful, living in survival mode, whatever we're in. Joy actually makes our cells reduplicate in healthy ways for longevity. And when we're living in fear and anger and doubt, our cells reduplicate in negative ways and they start getting diseased over time. So what we think, what we say, how we feel, it sets off a biochemical reaction in our body every time. Everything we think. That's why you could think something negative, you could feel it go through your body. You could think something joyful or something good happens and you feel uplifted. Our bodies are connected directly into our minds. There's no separation. And I don't think we've been taught that. Modern science, at least Western science, does not teach that to us. It's like the body and the mind are completely separate. And we need to really rethink that. Dr. Joseph Murphy, since the 1940s, was teaching his patients to speak to their cells when they've had cancer or heart disease. And even people who had like bipolar or any kind of mental disorders, he would teach them to speak to their minds. So it's not just your body and your cells and your genes and your body. You can also speak to your mind, your whole mind, your consciousness and your subconscious mind. We're all one. We are source. We are one with source. Therefore, every part of us is one with source. It's not like our subconscious mind is something separate from us. We can train it just like we can train ourselves to play a sport or anything else. I think a lot of times we think there's something fighting against us all the time, and our old personality will our ego will fight against us when we try to change, when we start making positive changes in our lives. Yet we don't have to listen, and we have the power over it. We can override that. So our genes, unless they're in a healthy environment, don't reduplicate in a healthy manner. That's why I called this doctor mode. Now, I'm not a doctor, and I know most of you probably aren't doctors, but just like a doctor gives you a diagnosis, when the doctor gives us a diagnosis, like you have Crohn's disease, you're going to have this the rest of your life. You have cancer, you have a year to live, you have, name it. There's so many things. Type 2 diabetes, any of these things. We can speak to our bodies, we can speak to our mind, and we can recreate a new environment within us that makes our genes recreate healthy cells and healthy organs. We can actually even grow parts back. And you know what? People used to think that was pseudoscience or that was impossible. But Dr. Joe Dispenza is a cutting edge scientist and has a team of scientists who have seen two people grow back their thyroid after they were removed, and several other things, other body parts that were taken out that actually grew back over time through meditation and through just right thinking and changing their mental habits and the way they viewed themselves and the way they viewed the world. Our cells, our genes, they respond to the way we view the world. If we think this world is cruel and mean and people are hateful and we're always on the defensive, that's a really bad environment for our cells, our genes, our organs to live in. And they get fearful and they start to contract and get diseased over time. But if we're flourishing and feeling positive and feeling happy. I'm not talking about toxic positivity and pretending something's not there. You know, if you do have a disease and a doctor tells you to get a treatment, that's up to you. If you think you should, then do it. But there are people who've actually chosen not to and have overcome. Dr. Joe has a guy who did that with prostate cancer, just for one example. There's actually several who have done that. But a lot of them, too, have gone to doctors and gotten the chemo or the treatment or whatever that may be, depending on the disease. And they meditated, so they put the two together. It's okay to live, you know, with one foot, as he says, in the real world and one foot in the quantum world, where we can create our future, where we can create, well, there is no future. It's always in the now. So, but we can create what happens to us. Through our consciousness, we can experience the things that we want to, that we desire to have, the things that we desire to happen, rather than being victims of life and everything's just running over us like a train and we're just powerless. So there's no truth in that. And we need to come to grips with that, you know. And even Dr. Joseph Murphy back then, he had a lot of patients healed. And that wasn't talked about because, quite frankly, the scientific model in the Western world, especially in the Western world, but not just there, most of the world, it doesn't, it calls that pseudoscience and says it's not true. And that, quite frankly, is not true. You know, Dr. Bruce Lipton in 1967 discovered that our genes actually reduplicate depending on the environment they're in. And any gene can turn into any type of thing. A gene can turn into bone marrow. A gene can turn into a pancreatic cell. A gene can turn into a liver cell. And also, we were told that our neurons would not reduplicate after we were adults. And that's not true either. We have neuroplasticity. And our hippocampus creates new neurons. And especially when we meditate and speak to our cells, speak to our genes, we're able to change these things. And it's just not out there very much, unless you watch people like Bruce Lipton and Joe Dispenza, or listen to there's old recordings of the doctor I was just talking about there. What was his name? I just said it. Joseph Murphy. There you go. So Dr. Joseph Murphy, yeah, he was amazing. He was actually a preacher, and he still believed in Jesus and he still believed in God, but he also realized that we are one, that they are not somebody out there. They live within us, or we are one with the Creator. Whoever you want to believe that is. Call it the universe. You don't have to believe in Christianity. Call it the universe, call it whatever you want. But know that you are source. You are one with the Creator of all that is seen and unseen. And quite frankly, most of it is unseen. I mean, we see like 0.99999 of reality of the 3D world, and like 99% of it is hidden to us. Our eyes can only take in a certain spectrum of light, and our minds can only conceive what that light brings into it, and our mind filters it too on top of it. So when we see something or when we think things, it's filtered by the way we were brought up, by the way we've been thinking for years. It's in us. Therefore, we're only able to think and see limited unless we're aware of the fact that we're not limited. When we start realizing we're not limited, we are unlimited potential in a quantum unified field that we're all part of. We're all being projected into this 3D through that. So since everything is, we're just electricity and protons, and we can change. This is not our reality is very fluid. Our cells are very fluid. Our genes are very fluid. And when we speak to them and give them the right information, give them the right environment to thrive in, instead of shrivel up in fear and doubt, they start thinking, your cells start thinking you don't even want to be here when you're waking up dreading every day. And they start giving up. They're just like, and they start becoming unhealthy. That's just a fact. I'm going to read a couple Bible verses here real quick, just to support what I'm talking about. By your words, you will be justified. By your words, which are also your thoughts, because you have to think something before you say something, you will be condemned. This is Matthew 12:37, and that was said by Jesus. You created my innermost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Now, you know, when you agree with that and you tell yourselves that they're wonderfully made and that they were knit together by the creator of the universe, and that you believe in them, and you thank them for serving you all these years, and you thank them and you tell them and command them, because we can command ourselves, because we are source, we are one with source, and we can command ourselves. And I'm going to tell you what I do at the end of this. I'm going to tell you what I do every night and every morning when I get up, how I talk to myself. It won't take long. It's just a quick thing, but I do it every day. Here's another one, another Bible verse. Oh, by the way, that was Psalm 139, 13 to 14. Jesus always spoke to things. Jesus spoke to a fig tree in Mark 11, 12 to 14. And Jesus also spoke to a fever. He rebuked the fever in Luke 4:39, and the guy's fever went away. And I'm going to give you one more Bible verse, and then I'll tell you my routine. Isaiah 55:11. The words that leave my mouth will not return to me void, but will accomplish the very thing I set out to do. So we, by our words, by our thoughts, can create the environment within us to heal. Our bodies, our cells are always dying off. We're always creating new ones. And the way to create healthier new ones is to give them a good environment to live in. And that is by living in peace and trust, trusting the unknown, trusting in the Creator, trusting in yourself, believing in yourself. It's so important. Knowing that you can trust yourself even. Keep your word to yourself. Keep your promises to yourself, you know. All that's important, and to other people, of course. So we can change our worlds. We can heal ourselves. We can heal ourselves mentally, physically, emotionally. We are so much more powerful than we've been told. Every night I say, I send divine order into every cell of my body, every molecule, every organ of my body. Anything that is unwanted, unhealthy, unneeded, or abnormal is being dissolved and removed now. Anything that needs repaired or reconstructed or restructured is now being repaired. I upregulate my genes for health, well-being, and longevity. I downregulate my genes for disease. And then you could tell your subconscious, it's not, you're telling your whole body, really, your mind. You could say, you know what? Thank you for trying to protect me by making me worry about the future, or I feel bad about the past, or whatever. Thank you for trying to protect me. But we got this. We're safe. I am safe. I am healthy. I am longevity. I am perfection. I am one with the Creator. Talk to yourself like that. Now, you could say it any way that feels natural for you. These are the things I say. I do it every morning and I do it every evening. And then if there's anything I want to visualize, I'll visualize it. Sometimes I'll throw in a meditation. I usually at least do a 5-minute meditation. And I know those are permission slips, and you don't have to do all that. You could just say, I'm perfection. My body is perfect. Everything always works out for me. My body is in perfect health. You can keep it that simple. You don't have to say everything I just said. But I would suggest to start speaking to yourselves, start speaking to your mind, start paying attention and being aware of your thoughts throughout the day, and catch them and revise them. When things don't go right, revise it, give it a good meaning, because things only mean what we say they mean. They don't have to be something horrible. Even if it's something that we disagree with or that we didn't want to happen, we can give it a positive spin and say, that's all right. Everything's working out for me. That's just part of the unfolding process. I needed that, and it's coming. And once again, everything's now, so it's really not coming. It's here. It's being unveiled or revealed to us. All right. Thanks for watching. I'm believing the best for you.